Introduction: The Fable and Its Philosophy. First published in 1988 in its original Portuguese as O Alchemista, Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist has transcended the boundaries of a mere novel to become a global cultural phenomenon. With sales exceeding 65 million copies and translations into more than 80 languages, it stands as one of the best-selling books in history, transforming the lives of countless readers across generations. The book's enduring appeal lies in its masterful blend of a compelling adventure with a profound spiritual allegory, presented in a simple, fable-like prose that is both accessible and deeply resonant. At its core, the novel is an exploration of the necessity of pursuing one's dreams, a concept Coelho crystallizes into the term personal legend. This idea that each individual has a unique purpose or destiny in life, and that the universe conspires to help them achieve it, forms the narrative and philosophical backbone of the story. The journey of the protagonist, a young shepherd named Santiago, becomes a universal template for the reader's own quest for self-discovery and fulfillment. However, the novel occupies a unique and often debated space in the literary world. It has been lauded by figures from world leaders to celebrities for its inspirational message, yet it is also frequently characterized by critics as being more self-help than literature. This report will delve into this dual identity, deconstructing the novel's intricate layers to provide a complete analysis of its narrative structure, archetypal characters, philosophical tenets, and rich symbolic landscape. By examining the journey of Santiago, we uncover a meticulously crafted story that functions simultaneously as a timeless adventure, a spiritual guide, and a commentary on the human search for meaning in the modern world. Part 1. The Shepherd's Journey, a Narrative Deconstruction. The narrative of The Alchemist is deceptively simple. Yet it is meticulously structured upon the archetypal framework of the hero's journey, a universal pattern of adventure and transformation identified by scholar Joseph Campbell. By tracing Santiago's path through this lens, we can deconstruct the story's progression from a humble beginning to a profound spiritual apotheosis. The ordinary world and the call to adventure. The story opens in the familiar fields of Andalusia, Spain, establishing the ordinary world of the protagonist, Santiago. He is a shepherd, a life he chose over the priesthood desired by his parents, precisely because it afforded him the freedom to travel and see the world. Though content with his flock, his books, and the rhythm of his nomadic existence, a subtle yearning for something more significant permeates his thoughts. The call to adventure, or inciting incident, arrives not as a grand proclamation, but as a whisper from the subconscious, a recurring dream. Each time Santiago sleeps under a sycamore tree growing from the ruins of an abandoned church, he dreams of a child who tells him to seek a hidden treasure at the foot of the Egyptian pyramids. Troubled by the dream's persistence, he consults a Romany fortune-teller in Tarifa. She interprets the dream literally, urging him to go to Egypt and demanding a tenth of his future treasure as payment. Her interpretation reinforces a key tenet of the novel's worldview, that dreams are the language of God, and when God speaks in the language of the soul, only the dreamer can truly understand its meaning. Meeting the mentor and crossing the threshold. Despite the gypsy's counsel, Santiago hesitates, weighing the comfort of his known life against the uncertainty of a dream. It is at this critical juncture that he meets his first true mentor, a mysterious old man who sits beside him on a plaza bench. This man reveals himself to be Melchizedek, the king of Salem, a figure drawn directly from the Old Testament who serves as a quasi-divine catalyst for Santiago's journey.
Melchizedek introduces the novel's central philosophical concepts. He speaks of the personal legend, one's true purpose in life, and the soul of the world, the spiritual force that connects all things. He issues a powerful warning against believing the world's greatest lie, the notion that at a certain point in our lives we lose control and our existence becomes governed by fate. To embark on the quest, Santiago must demonstrate his commitment through sacrifice, giving Melchizedek 1/10 of his flock. In return, the king gives him 2 stones, Urim and Thummim, another biblical allusion, which can be used to interpret omens when he is unable to make a decision. Emboldened by this encounter, Santiago makes the decisive choice. He sells the remainder of his flock and takes a boat from Spain to Tangier, in Africa. This act represents crossing the first threshold, a point of no return where he leaves his familiar world behind and fully commits to his quest. The Road of Trials, Tangier and the Crystal Merchant. Santiago's entry into the unknown is met with immediate and harsh reality. In the bustling marketplace of Tangier, a new acquaintance who promises to guide him to the pyramids instead robs him of all his money. This devastating setback serves as his first major trial on the Road of Trials. Penniless and alone in a foreign land where he doesn't speak the language, he is forced to confront a pivotal choice: to see himself as a poor victim of a thief, or as an adventurer in quest of his treasure. He chooses the latter. This trial leads him to the shop of a crystal merchant, a kind but deeply conservative man who offers him a job. The crystal merchant becomes a crucial foil for Santiago. He too has a personal legend to make the pilgrimage to Mecca, as prescribed by the Quran. But he is paralyzed by fear. He worries that if he were to achieve his dream, he would have no reason left to live, and so he allows the dream to remain a comforting but unfulfilled fantasy. He embodies the cautionary tale of a life governed by fear and stagnation. Santiago, on the contrary, applies his energy and ingenuity to his work. His presence is a good omen for the merchant, and business thrives as Santiago introduces innovations like building a display case and serving tea to customers in the beautiful crystal glasses. He learns the language of enthusiasm, a part of the universal language that is understood by all. After nearly a year, Santiago has earned enough money not only to buy back his flock, but to return to Spain a wealthy man. Yet, having learned from the merchant's life of regret, he makes the courageous decision to risk his newfound wealth and continue his journey towards the pyramids. Every major setback in the narrative serves not as a point of failure, but as a crucial catalyst for the next phase of Santiago's development. The robbery in Tangier, which appears to be a disaster, is the very event that forces him into the employment of the crystal merchant. This period is essential. It teaches him resilience, patience, the value of innovation, and provides a stark, real-world example of what becomes of a person who abandons their personal legend. Without this failure, he would have lacked both the financial resources and the hardened resolve needed to cross the Sahara. This pattern demonstrates a core philosophical argument of the novel. The universe utilizes not only favorable omens, but also significant obstacles to test and guide the seeker. Trials, when embraced, become blessings in disguise.
The innermost cave, the desert, the oasis, and love. Santiago joins a caravan to cross the vast Sahara Desert, a journey that represents his descent into the innermost cave, a place of deeper testing and self-reflection. In the caravan, he meets an Englishman, a studious man obsessed with learning the secrets of alchemy from books. The Englishman is on his way to the legendary Al-Fayoum oasis to find a 200-year-old alchemist. He represents a different path to knowledge, one that is purely intellectual and detached from lived experience, a stark contrast to Santiago's intuitive and observational learning style. The caravan's journey is halted at the Al-Fayoum oasis, a lush, neutral territory protected from the tribal wars raging in the desert. The oasis symbolizes a sanctuary of life, love, and peace amidst the harsh trials of the world. It is here, at a well, that Santiago meets Fatima. The encounter is portrayed as a moment of profound recognition, where time seems to stand still, and Santiago learns the most important part of the language that all the world spoke. It was love. He is so captivated that he considers abandoning his quest to remain with her, a significant temptation that threatens to derail his personal legend. However, Fatima embodies the novel's ideal of true love. As a woman of the desert, she understands that love must be liberating, not possessive. She insists that he continue his journey, explaining that she is now a part of his legend and will wait for him. She teaches him that true love never holds one back from their destiny, for to do so would rob that love of its truth. While in the desert near the oasis, Santiago's attunement to the language of the world deepens. Observing the flight of two hawks, he has a sudden, powerful vision of an army attacking the neutral oasis. Trusting this omen, he overcomes his fear and warns the tribal chieftains. Though initially met with skepticism, his warning allows the oasis to prepare and successfully defend itself. This pivotal act of reading the omens and acting upon them brings him to the very figure the Englishman was seeking, the alchemist. The supreme ordeal and the ultimate boon. The alchemist, recognizing Santiago as his true apprentice, takes him under his tutelage. He is a starkly different mentor from Melchizedek. He is practical, demanding, and teaches through action and severe tests. He guides Santiago out of the oasis and back into the desert toward the pyramids. Their journey is fraught with danger, culminating in their capture by a hostile tribal group of Arab soldiers. This capture precipitates the novel's climax and Santiago's supreme ordeal. To save their lives, the alchemist boldly tells the tribal chief that Santiago is a powerful magician who can transform himself into the wind, and that he will demonstrate this feat in 3 days. Santiago is terrified as he has no idea how to perform such a miracle. Over the next 3 days, he contemplates the desert and his own heart. On the 3rd day, he engages in a profound dialogue with the elements. He speaks to the desert about love, to the wind about their shared freedom, and to the sun about the soul of the world. Finally, he prays to the hand that wrote all. In this moment of ultimate surrender and connection, he reaches through to the soul of the world, understands that it is a part of the soul of God, and sees that his own soul is one and the same. A furious sandstorm, a simoom, engulfs the camp. When it subsides, Santiago has vanished from one side of the encampment and reappeared on the other. Awed by this power, the tribesmen let him and the alchemist go free. The ultimate boon Santiago receives is not a physical object, but this profound spiritual realization. He has not only survived, but has performed true alchemy on himself, achieving a state of oneness with all of creation. This ordeal was not a random misfortune, but a necessary test engineered by the alchemist to force Santiago to realize his own power. The return and resurrection. The alchemist accompanies Santiago as far as a Coptic monastery just a few hours from the pyramids. There he performs a demonstration of literal alchemy, turning lead into gold with the philosopher's stone. He gives a portion of the gold to Santiago and keeps some for himself, explaining the principles of the master work. Santiago proceeds to the pyramids alone.
As he begins to dig in the spot from his dream, he is brutally attacked and robbed by two refugees from the tribal wars. Beaten and defeated, he tells his attackers about his dream of treasure. The leader of the man scoffs, recounting his own seemingly foolish, recurring dream, a dream of a treasure buried in Spain, at the roots of a sycamore tree growing in a ruined church where shepherds and their sheep sleep. This moment of ultimate despair delivers the final crucial omen. Santiago recognizes the description of the church from the beginning of his journey. The physical treasure was never at the pyramids, it was at his starting point all along. This narrative twist is a direct parallel to the international folktale archetype, the treasure at home. This revelation constitutes his resurrection. He is reborn with the final piece of knowledge. He journeys back to Andalusia, to the abandoned church, and digs at the base of the sycamore tree. There he unearths a chest filled with Spanish gold coins, precious stones, and jewels. The novel concludes with Santiago, now rich in both material wealth and spiritual wisdom, planning to pay his debt to the gypsy and then return across the desert to the oasis where Fatima awaits him. While the novel's plot is geographically circular, returning Santiago to his origin, his journey is spiritually a spiral. He comes back to the same physical location, but as a fundamentally transformed individual. He left as a simple shepherd and returns as a man who has conversed with kings and elements, who understands the language of the world, and who has found both love and his own soul. The journey was not merely to find the location of the treasure, but to undergo the transformation necessary to recognize the final omen and be worthy of the reward. The destination, the pyramids, was a necessary lure, a catalyst for the true alchemy that occurred along the way. Without the journey, the treasure would have remained buried and unseen forever.
Part 2. The Inhabitants of the Fable, a Characterological Study. The characters in The Alchemist are intentionally crafted with a mythic simplicity, allowing them to function as powerful archetypes within the novel's allegorical structure. Each figure Santiago encounters represents a fundamental aspect of the human condition, a philosophical stance, or a crucial stage in the spiritual quest. Santiago, the archetypal hero. Santiago is the heart of the novel, an everyman protagonist whose journey of transformation is designed to be universally relatable. His character arc is the engine of the story, moving from a state of passive contentment to one of active, courageous self-realization. Initially, Santiago is a young shepherd from Andalusia, content with his flock but harboring a deep-seated desire to travel. He represents the soul in its nascent stage, full of potential but living a life of routine, dictated more by the needs of his sheep than by his own will. His journey is a process of shedding the layers of this conventional existence to discover his true self, a process one critic described as unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you are meant to be in the first place. Throughout his quest, Santiago exhibits a blend of determination, curiosity, and naivety. His gullibility leads to his being robbed in Tangier, but his open-mindedness allows him to learn invaluable lessons from every person and situation he encounters. His greatest strength, and what distinguishes him from other seekers like the Englishman, is his capacity for experiential wisdom. He learns not from abstract theories, but through direct observation, action, and intuition. Skills honed during his time as a shepherd and perfected in the crucible of the desert. As a literary figure, Santiago perfectly embodies the archetypal hero of Joseph Campbell's monomyth. He hears the call to adventure, crosses the threshold into the unknown, faces a series of trials with the help of mentors and allies, undergoes a supreme ordeal that leads to a spiritual death and rebirth, and finally returns home with the ultimate boon, the treasure, which is both material and, more importantly, a profound new level of consciousness. The Mentors, Melchizedek and the Alchemist.
Santiago's journey is guided by two distinct but complementary mentor figures, each appearing at a necessary stage of his development. This duality of mentorship highlights that the path to one's personal legend requires both initial inspiration and disciplined practical application. Melchizedek, the catalyst. The king of Salem is a mystical, almost divine figure who appears when Santiago is at a crossroads, needing the encouragement to believe in the impossible. His wisdom is philosophical and abstract. He introduces the grand concepts of the personal legend and the soul of the world, providing the why for the journey. His biblical origins and seemingly immortal nature, he recalls charging a tithe to Abraham, position him as a timeless emissary of fate whose work is to nudge humanity's seekers onto their true paths at critical moments. By demanding a sacrifice, a tenth of the flock, he teaches the fundamental lesson that any meaningful quest requires a tangible commitment. The Alchemist, the Master. If Melchizedek provides the spark, the 200-year-old alchemist provides the fire. He appears much later in the journey, after Santiago has already demonstrated his commitment and resilience. His mentorship is not gentle or philosophical, but intensely practical, harsh, and action-oriented. He is a formidable, even terrifying teacher who pushes Santiago to his absolute limits, forcing him to face death and perform miracles. His core teaching is that wisdom is gained through doing, not simply knowing. There is only one way to learn. It's through action. The alchemist represents the mastery that comes from the difficult, hands-on work of self-purification, providing the how that follows Melchizedek's why. The foils, the crystal merchant and the Englishman. Coelho uses two key characters as foils to Santiago, each representing a flawed approach to life and dreams. They serve as living cautionary tales, reinforcing the novel's central messages by illustrating the consequences of not following them. The Crystal Merchant, the cautionary tale. The merchant in Tangier is a direct and poignant contrast to Santiago. He is a good and kind man who is trapped by his own fear. His personal legend is to make a pilgrimage to Mecca, a dream that keeps him alive, but one he will never pursue. He fears that if he fulfills his dream, he will have nothing left to live for. This paralysis has led to a life of quiet regret and stagnation. His dusty shop is a physical manifestation of his unlived life. He represents all those who hear the call of their personal legend but refuse it, choosing the safety of the familiar over the risks of the unknown. His story provides Santiago with a powerful negative example, strengthening the boy's resolve not to suffer the same fate. The Englishman, the flawed seeker. The Englishman whom Santiago meets in the caravan represents the pursuit of wisdom through intellect alone. He is a scholar, armed with a suitcase full of books on alchemy, seeking the alchemist to obtain a formula or recipe for the masterwork. His failure lies in his method. He is so absorbed in his text that he fails to observe the world around him, ignoring the caravan and the desert, which are themselves living teachers. The alchemist ultimately dismisses him, choosing Santiago as his student because the boy understands that wisdom is an embodied experience, not an accumulation of facts. The Englishman symbolizes the dead end of a purely academic or theoretical approach to life's great mysteries, underscoring the novel's profound bias towards intuition, observation, and action. The Anima, Fatima, and the nature of true love. The ideal love. Fatima, the woman of the desert, is the embodiment of the novel's philosophy of love. Santiago meets her at the oasis well, an encounter imbued with the mystical weight of destiny and love at first sight. She represents a love that is selfless, patient, and empowering. When Santiago is tempted to abandon his quest for her, she becomes the one who urges him onward, teaching him the crucial lesson that love never keeps a man from pursuing his personal legend. If he abandons that pursuit, it's because it wasn't true love. She trusts in Maktub, it is written, confident that if they are meant to be, he will return. Symbolic role.
Fatima is, in a sense, the first treasure Santiago finds, a reward discovered on the journey itself, not at the final destination. She gives his quest a new dimension, a reason to return, a home to come back to. Her character reinforces the idea that true love and one's personal legend are not in conflict, but are woven together by the same hand of destiny. Critical perspective. While her role is idealized within the novel's framework, some critical analyses have pointed to its gendered limitations. Fatima's own personal legend appears to be subsumed by Santiago's. Her purpose is to wait. This challenges the universality of the novel's message, suggesting it may be a journey primarily available to men. In a compelling counter-reading, one academic paper reinterprets Fatima as the true alchemist of the story, arguing that it is her unwavering faith and love that act as the ultimate catalyst, transmuting Santiago and giving his journey its ultimate meaning.
Part 3. The Philosophical Core. Unpacking the Soul of the World. The Alchemist is more than a story. It is a vessel for a cohesive, if eclectic, spiritual philosophy. Coelho weaves together concepts from various traditions to create a worldview centered on destiny, interconnectedness, and the transformative power of the individual quest. The doctrine of the personal legend. The central pillar of the novel's philosophy is the personal legend. It is defined as an individual's unique destiny, the life purpose they have yearned to accomplish since childhood. Melchizedek impresses upon Santiago that to realize one's destiny is a person's only real obligation. This is not presented as a selfish pursuit. Rather, the desire for one's personal legend is said to originate in the soul of the universe, and by fulfilling it, the individual nourishes the soul of the world and participates in its continuous evolution towards perfection. The journey itself is paramount. The wisdom, love, and personal growth acquired along the way are consistently framed as being more valuable than the material prize at the end. The true treasure, the novel argues, is the person one becomes in pursuit of the treasure. Maktub, omens, and the language of the world. Coelho's universe is alive and communicative, guiding those who are willing to listen. This guidance system operates through three interconnected concepts. Maktub, an Arabic term meaning "it is written," this concept introduces a sense of determinism or fate. It suggests that our paths are, in some sense, preordained. This creates a fascinating philosophical tension with the novel's simultaneous emphasis on free will and personal choice. The resolution seems to be that while the destination, the personal legend, is written, the choice to undertake the journey and the manner in which one navigates its trials remains the individual's own. Omens. These are the primary means by which the universe communicates with the individual. They are signs, a butterfly appearing at a key moment, two stones falling from a pocket, the flight of hawks, that offer guidance and confirmation along the path of the personal legend. Santiago's spiritual development is marked by his increasing ability to read and interpret these omens, moving from reliance on the stones Urim and Tunim to a direct, intuitive understanding of his surroundings. The language of the world. This is a universal, nonverbal language that transcends cultural and linguistic barriers. It is the language of enthusiasm, love, intuition, and a deep connection to all of creation. It is through this language that one can tap into the soul of the world. Santiago's ultimate mastery of this language allows him to communicate directly with the desert, the wind, and the sun during his supreme ordeal. The metaphysics of alchemy. The novel's title points to its central metaphor. While literal alchemy, the transmutation of base metals like lead into gold, is depicted as a real possibility within the story's world, its primary significance is allegorical.
True alchemy is the masterwork of spiritual purification and personal transformation. The Englishman learns that the ancient alchemists, while observing the fire that purified metals, discovered that the purification of the metals had led to the purification of themselves. Santiago's entire journey is an alchemical process. He is the lead, and the trials he endures, robbery, hardship, heartbreak, fear of death, are the fires that purify him, ultimately transforming him into the gold of a self-realized individual who is in harmony with the soul of the world. The theology of fear and love. The novel presents a simple but powerful moral binary, casting fear as the ultimate obstacle and love as the ultimate transformative power. Fear, the great obstacle. Fear is consistently identified as the single greatest impediment to fulfilling one's personal legend. The famous quote, "There is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve, the fear of failure," encapsulates this theme perfectly. This destructive power of fear is personified in the character of the crystal merchant, whose life is a monument to dreams deferred. The alchemist provides the antidote, teaching Santiago that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself, and that a heart in search of its dreams never truly suffers. Love, the transformative force. In contrast, love is depicted as the fundamental energy that transforms and improves the soul of the world. Santiago's love for Fatima becomes a source of strength, not a distraction. It is the promise of her love that gives him a reason to complete his quest and return to Fayhim. In the novel's climax, it is his understanding of love as the universal principle connecting all things that allows him to speak to the elements and perform his miracle. The novel's philosophy is a masterful synthesis of seemingly contradictory ideas. It blends the determinism of Maktub with a message of profound personal agency. It draws on Christian iconography, shepherds, Melchizedek, while being set in a deeply Islamic cultural context. And its core metaphysical concept, the soul of the world, is fundamentally pantheistic, suggesting that the divine is immanent in all of creation. This syncretism is not a flaw, but a deliberate strategy. By weaving together threads from multiple world religions and spiritual traditions, Coelho creates a universal philosophy that can resonate with the global readership, allowing individuals from diverse backgrounds to find familiar echoes and profound truths within its simple framework.
Furthermore, this philosophy can be interpreted as a direct response to the disenchantment of the modern world. In an age often characterized by secularism and rationalism, The Alchemist offers a re-enchanted vision of the universe, one that is purposeful, benevolent, and deeply invested in the journey of the individual soul. Its core messages, that your life has a unique and grand destiny, that coincidences are meaningful omens, and that the universe conspires to help you, are potent antidotes to feelings of alienation and meaninglessness. While some critics dismiss these ideas as cheap New Age wisdom, the book's staggering popularity suggests it addresses a profound and widespread human yearning for purpose, connection, and the belief that one's life matters on a cosmic scale. Part 4. The World in a Grain of Sand, Symbolism and Allegory. The Alchemist operates on a deeply symbolic level, where every place, character, and object is imbued with allegorical meaning. The literal physical journey across the desert serves as a map for an inner spiritual journey of self-discovery. The symbolism of place. The ruined church. The story begins and ends in an abandoned church with a sycamore tree growing through its roof. This location symbolizes the sacred found in the humble, the forgotten, and the natural. It is the alpha and omega of the physical quest, powerfully illustrating the theme that the treasure we seek is often found at home, but can only be recognized and claimed after we have undertaken the transformative journey away from it. The desert. The Sahara Desert is the primary setting for Santiago's trials and is the novel's most potent symbol for the hardships, challenges, and tests inherent in the pursuit of any worthwhile goal. It is a landscape of harsh conditions, tribal wars, and profound silence. Yet, for the attentive seeker, the desert transforms from an obstacle into a teacher. Santiago learns to read its signs, to find life in its seeming emptiness, and ultimately to speak its language, connecting with the soul of the world that permeates even its most barren stretches. The oasis, Olafayum, is a literal and metaphorical refuge, a lush sanctuary of life, peace, and love that exists in the very heart of the desert's trials. It represents the idea that even during life's most arduous phases, there are moments of respite, connection, and joy. It is a neutral ground in the midst of war, symbolizing a common morality that transcends conflict. For Santiago, it is where he discovers love with Fatima, a crucial lesson on his path. The Pyramids of Egypt. Initially, the pyramids function as the clear and distant goal of Santiago's personal legend, the location of his promised treasure. They symbolize the grand, awe-inspiring dream that motivates the quest. However, the novel executes a brilliant symbolic subversion when it's revealed that the physical treasure is not actually there. At this point, the pyramids are transformed into a symbol of the journey itself. They were the necessary destination one had to strive for in order to learn the true lessons and gain the real treasures, wisdom, love, and self-knowledge along the way. The symbolism of beings and objects. Santiago's sheep. The flock symbolizes a life of conformity and simple material comfort lived in ignorance of a higher purpose. The sheep are concerned only with food and water, they follow blindly, and have forgotten their own instincts. For Santiago to begin his journey, he must sell his sheep, a symbolic act of sacrificing security and the known world for the pursuit of his dream. Alchemy. As the novel's central allegory, alchemy represents the process of personal transformation and spiritual evolution. The quest to turn lead into gold is a metaphor for the soul's journey toward its highest state of being. Santiago himself is the base metal, and his trials are the alchemical fire that purifies him. Urim and Thummim. The black and white stones given to Santiago by Melchizedek symbolize the need for guidance in moments of uncertainty, but they also represent a rudimentary form of reading the world. Santiago relies on them early in his journey, but as his wisdom grows, he learns to read the omens of the world directly without the need for such simple tools. His eventual abandonment of the stones signifies his maturation from a novice seeker into a true adept who can converse with the language of the world. The Alchemist as a modern allegory. The novel is a quintessential modern allegory. Its narrative structure adheres almost perfectly to the universal pattern of the monomyth, or hero's journey, which is a key reason for its timeless and cross-cultural appeal. Santiago's story contains all the classic stages: the call to adventure, the dream, the refusal of the call, his initial hesitation, meeting the mentor, Melchizedek, crossing the threshold, sailing to Tangier, the road of trials, robbery, the desert, the supreme ordeal, turning into the wind, and the return with the ultimate boon, the treasure and his newfound wisdom. The novel's most powerful symbolic and allegorical turn lies in the final revelation about the treasure's location. The entire narrative propels Santiago and the reader toward an exotic, distant goal, the Pyramids of Egypt. The discovery that the treasure was in fact buried back in the humble, familiar ruins of the church in Spain is a profound subversion of the traditional treasure hunt narrative. This twist makes Coelho's central philosophical point concrete and undeniable. The true purpose of a goal is not its attainment, but the transformation it inspires. The treasure is the journey. The pyramids were a necessary fiction, a lure powerful enough to draw Santiago out of his comfortable life and set him on the path where the real alchemy, the transformation of his own soul, could occur.
Conclusion: the treasure and its legacy. In the final analysis, the true treasure Santiago unearths is not the chest of gold and jewels, but the profound wisdom, unwavering love, and spiritual self-mastery he acquires on his quest. The physical riches are merely an external confirmation of the internal wealth he has already gained. His journey to fulfill his personal legend was, in itself, the fulfillment. The circular path of his adventure, ending where it began, becomes a spiral of growth, demonstrating that one must often leave home to find oneself, only to return with the wisdom to see home for the first time. The Alchemist occupies a controversial but powerful position at the intersection of literature and self-help. Its critics point to its simple prose and inspirational maxims as evidence of a lack of literary depth. However, its defenders and millions of devoted readers find its strength in this very hybridity. Coelho utilizes the accessible, archetypal language of a fable to deliver a deeply personal philosophical message that has resonated with a global audience searching for meaning, purpose, and a sense of enchantment in a complex world. The enduring legacy of The Alchemist lies in its capacity to inspire personal reflection. It has prompted countless individuals to consider their own personal legends and to find the courage to pursue their dreams. The novel's conclusion offers a vision of perfect harmony. Santiago, having integrated the spiritual and the material, is ready to reunite with the love that sustained him. The final image, the Levanter wind carrying the scent of Fatima's perfume and the touch of her kiss across the desert, is a final, beautiful affirmation of the book's central truth, that all things, from the soul of a boy to the sands of the desert to the force of love, are interconnected, written by the same hand and animated by the same soul of the world.